Tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome to today's Mental Health Awareness Week Kōrero session. I'm Gina Nonomalo. I'm the Head of Delivery at Ignite Aotearoa, and it's great to have you with us for our chat today. We're thrilled to be supporting the kaupapa of Mental Health Awareness Week, which is take time to kōrero. A little chat can go a long way, and that's something that we really believe here at Ignite. We love chatting about all things mental health and wellbeing. So on that note, you can join me every day this week at 11 a.m. I'm going to be chatting with one of our Ignite support providers, and we're going to be covering a range of mental health and wellbeing topics. Today, joining me for a kōrero is Ignite support provider Meegan Coster. Meegan, I'll hand over to you to do a little introduction of yourself before we get into today's chat.
Thank you, Gina. So, kia ora everyone. As Gina said, my name is Meegan. I've been working in mental health for around 15 years and have a various range of training modalities. I started off in social work and then trained in psychology and sociology, and have a master's degree in solution-focused therapy. And my side training has very much been around holistic modalities, very much like Te Whare Takawhā, the four walls of the house, incorporating Wairua and spirituality in wellbeing approaches.
Awesome, thank you, Meegan. That's quite an array of training that you've completed, and a number of different sort of modalities and approaches. How do you incorporate that into your work with people?
Yeah, so I tend to use my mainstream training in psychology and counselling as a foundation to stand on. And then in the actual work that I do with people, it's very holistic and very collaborative. So I like to step into people's worldviews and whatever's important to them, whatever they believe in, and draw upon that in terms of strengths and resources, and looking for possibilities for possible solutions that they may have lost sight of temporarily. But it is a whole person approach.
Awesome. How do you, tell me a little bit more, you talked about stepping into somebody's worldview. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that, and how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's just giving people the space and giving people permission to talk about what's important to them. So coming to a mental health service, they might be expecting that the practitioner just talks about thoughts or feelings. So you're giving people the space to talk about absolutely anything and everything that's important to them, how they perceive the world, what beliefs they might have, any sense of intuition they may have, any sense of there being more to life than just what we can see, and how they tune into that, or how they connect with that aspect of their lives. Also their relationships, and their connection to community and their own sense of meaning and purpose in their lives, how they express themselves creatively or through work. So there's just so many aspects to us as people, way more than just our thoughts and our feelings.
Absolutely. And I was really interested in quite a lot of things that you mentioned there, and you talked about taking a holistic view, and I'm certainly getting the picture from the things that you're talking about, that you're taking a very holistic view of someone's life and their well-being, which, as you probably know, really fits with our approach at Ignite, where we have a whole of life approach to well-being. And when we set up this session, the topic that you mentioned you'd like to offer to talk about is Wairua. So could you just tell us a little bit about what is spirituality? What is Wairua? How do we, what are we actually talking about?
Yeah, and that's a really great question. And there'll be as many answers to that question as there are human beings on the planet. It's so subjective and it's so unique and so individual. Everyone will have their own sense of Wairua. Um, for some people, it's basically how they feel when they're in nature and their connection to nature or animals. Some people, it's a sense of having a spiritual essence or a soul. Some people, it's feeling connected to absolutely everything and everyone. They might feel like everything's energy, and so am I. It's just so diverse, and all of it's completely, you know, valid. Like everybody's experience is everybody's experience, and it's all beautiful and diverse.
Nice. How did you develop an interest in spirituality? Because it's not something that you very often see counsellors particularly mentioning, as being an area that they might work with.
Yeah, so my own personal experience of just being incredibly curious, growing up in a religious household and being sent to a religious school around the age of 12, just questioning um, some of the things that adults didn't really want to talk about or answer for me. Just why is there only one right religion and what makes all the other religions wrong? And isn't that unfair that it depends on where you're born in the world, that you're potentially born into the religion that other religions deem to be the wrong one? You know, it just didn't make any sense to me as a child.
Yeah.
And I totally honour the fact that some people, you know, that is their spirituality, is their religion. For me, I kind of expanded beyond that and was just very, very curious and questioning right from a young age. And just the way I kind of navigated that journey for me was to just keep kind of being curious and searching and coming across things until there was a sense of resonance, or I resonated with some information. And that's a spiritual practice in itself, is just being curious, and you know, once you resonate with something, then it's true for you. And so that's kind of how I came across my own sort of sense of spirituality.
Interesting. Thanks, Meegan. Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. And I think possibly some people still equate religion and spirituality as being the same thing. What would your perspective be on that? Are they the same thing? Are they different? Are they connected?
They will be for some people. For some people, when they talk about their spirituality, it'll be their religion, and that's beautiful for them. That's where they're at, and that gives people a lot of meaning, and gives a lot of people a lot of peace. So yeah, for other people, their sense of spirituality will be outside of organised religion, and it'll be very, very unique and different for them as well.
Awesome. I really get a sense, Meegan, that you're very accepting of people's different views around spirituality and religion, which must be it's obviously a great quality in a counsellor. If you're seeking support from someone, you want to know that you're going to be accepted, no matter what your views are. On that note, what relationship do you believe that spirituality has in someone's well-being? If we think of well-being in the holistic sense, what does spirituality have to do with it?
That's a really good question, and a very big question. So the role spirituality tends to play in people's well-being is vast. Some people, it gives them a sense of there being a bigger purpose, or bigger, a deeper meaning to their lives. It can give them a source of strength or hope, or being held by something that helps them through difficult times. It helps sometimes for people to unstick themselves from the human the human experience with all the intensity of that, and to just be perhaps guided by their intuition to their next steps, and perhaps feeling like whatever challenges they're going through there might be a bigger reason for it, for example.
So it sounds like it's something that is quite intertwined with other aspects of life. What impact do you think spirituality has on mental health per se?
Yeah, so I guess the absence of a sense of spirituality, or a sense of connection to Wairua, what I've seen in a lot of people is that they can become the challenges that they're going through. They kind of become that story. They become the label of depression or anxiety or whatever it is, and they can kind of spiral down with it. It's almost like there's no lifeline for them to hold on to during that time. So in that sense, any kind of sense of spirituality or Wairua, or even, I just call it intuition or gut feeling, or bigger sense of purpose, it can really act as a sense. It can give people a sense of buoyancy and really help them navigate challenging times.
In my previous work as a mental health nurse, I did sometimes work with people who maybe were experiencing quite a bit of distress because what was happening for them at the time was in conflict with some of their spiritual beliefs, or perhaps religious beliefs or practices that they had been brought up with. Is that something that you have come across in your work as a counsellor?
Yes, and that's a really good point that you make. For some people, particularly who have been brought up in quite strict religious families, for example, if they're having challenges around their sexual identity, or sexuality or gender identity, that can create a lot of psychological pain and emotional pain, for sure.
Are there any things that is probably a very difficult question for a short chat session, but are there any things that you, any insights you offer, or any techniques that you might share with people to help them navigate those kind of distressed feelings around those issues?
Yeah, so a lot of my focus is in supporting the person to have a really positive relationship with themselves and their own hearts and their own spirit, their own Wairua, their own sense of intuition. And a lot of it's supporting them to discern what feels right for them and what resonates for them and what their truth is, and how to be their authentic selves in the world and to be more freely and fully expressed. So that's a lot of my focus. And for people that are struggling with those external conflicts, where how they may have been raised is in conflict with how they're experiencing themselves, the journey is often around just helping them, giving them permission to align with their own selves, with their own sense of who they are and what their truth is.
Sounds like it would be something that might take a little bit of time, some quite in-depth work.
Yes, it's interesting because I mostly work in a brief intervention model, and when people start to experience themselves differently and have a shift in perception of themselves, their own shifts can happen quite quickly. So it's actually quite amazing how, like, it always blows me away how quickly people can shift when they're given that opportunity to have someone meet them in their wholeness, rather than anything else. It's just very much a wholeness focus.
Nice. I think that's really the benefit of engaging with a counsellor such as yourself, is that you get that that support and, you know, being and feeling heard. Meegan, when we were planning the session, you mentioned a few terms that I was quite intrigued by. So this is probably another big question. You talked about meaning making, perspective, purpose, and possibilities. And I'm just wondering if you could maybe talk about those things a little bit and their relationship to spirituality and Wairua.
Yeah, sure. So I guess one of the concepts too that relates to this is something that I call the difference between the taught self and the true self. So the taught self is all of our past experiences, how we were raised, all the messages we got about who we are from society and what was expected of us, and all the social conditioning stuff. And the true self is, you know, who we were born to be before any challenges may have happened or any negative messaging happened or anything like that. So it's kind of like, you know, the journey to discover who our true self is and what feels in alignment with that, and how we can be more authentic and be more of who we truly are. So the meaning making and, you know, the purpose finding and opening up new possibilities for ourselves is very much intertwined with discovering who is my true self. You know, who was I born to be? What resonates for me? What makes me feel excited? You know, what